Hello, my name is Natasha Ryan and I'm the Schools Liaison Officer for Modern Languages at the University of Oxford. So by now you'll have heard quite a bit about what it's like to study languages at Oxford, and you'll have heard from lots of our staff and students. But you might be wondering, okay, so what am I going to do with a languages degree once I've got it? And I think when we're thinking about languages and careers, we can sometimes have a tendency to think that the options out there are somewhat limited. We might think that you can only be a translator, or you can only teach languages. And certainly those are some very popular career paths for our graduates, and they can be very rewarding and successful. But there are also lots of other options out there. So just to give you an idea, we surveyed our graduates 6 months after leaving university, and these are the sectors that they were going into. So as you can see, lots are going into education, but they're also going into things like media, journalism, publishing. Some are going into the law, some are going into civil service, some are going into government, the finance sector. Some are working for charities or for arts companies or in the sports sector. So there really are lots of options out there. And generally we find that modern linguists tend to be quite keen to get out into the workplace after their degree. And in fact, again, 6 months after graduating, we're finding that modern languages graduates are slightly more likely to be employed and slightly less likely to be engaged in further study than other humanities students, and indeed other students in subjects across the university. Whether that's because the year abroad has given them an appetite for the working world, or whether it's just because they're really keen to put their language skills to use. So why are modern linguists so employable? Well, because when you do a degree in modern languages, there are a huge amount of skills that you naturally acquire. So obviously you're going to learn to speak another language, perhaps even two languages, but you're also going to pick up a huge range of transferable skills. And by this, we mean skills that can be adapted to lots of different professional contexts. For example, you're going to learn to communicate well. You're going to learn to write under pressure and meet deadlines. You're going to learn to form opinions, to articulate yourself, to defend your opinions. These are all skills that are nurtured within the Oxford tutorial system. You're going to develop an attention to detail, both from learning the different grammatical systems of languages, but also from the close reading that will be involved in the literary side of your course. You're going to learn to work as part of a team. We know that listening is one of the core skills of language learning. When you're a linguist, you automatically learn to work collaboratively. You're going to be able to come up with creative solutions to things and think outside the box. Because when you're speaking a language, perhaps on your year abroad, you might well find that you forget the word for something, or you don't know how to conjugate a particular verb. And in that moment, you have to find a way around it. You have to find a way to problem solve, essentially. And that's a skill that can be really useful when you're looking for a job after your degree. You'll also learn a lot about empathy. When you learn languages, you're also learning about lots of different cultures and different perspectives. Think about what you're doing when you're translating. You're not just moving between different languages, you're also moving between different viewpoints. You're thinking not only about what people understand, but what they don't understand, and how you can help them understand. So translation is both a linguistic process and also a very human, very empathetic process. And you're learning to multitask, because what are you doing when you're moving between languages? Well, you're effectively holding different data sets in your mind and moving between them. And that's something that's really going to be an asset to you when you're looking for a job. But don't just take it from me. We've got some testimonies from several of our graduates who've gone into different jobs here. So if you're interested in the arts sector, for example, you might want to go and curate an art gallery like Daniel did, who studied German and Russian. And he says that in his day-to-day working life, he's constantly shifting between languages to coordinate exhibitions, write articles, deliver presentations, liaise with artists, and this would be unthinkable without his training in modern languages. Or you might want to be an actor or a singer. Ellie studied French, and she says that having foreign languages really makes her stand out. She points to the year abroad, which gave her the confidence to go out and stand on the stage and make a fool of herself. And she says you learn to process written information quickly and understand nuances in communication. Perhaps moving away from the arts, you might be interested in something like marketing, which is what Sarah did. Sarah studied French, and she says it's easy to see why employers value a language degree. Studying grammar develops close attention to detail and structured thinking, while learning about another culture through its art, history, and thinking nurtures a wider and deeper appreciation of the values that shape societies other than your own. She points to those transferable skills as having stood her in good stead in an industry where you have to develop strong, lasting relationships and communicate ideas succinctly and compellingly. And Sam, who's a graphic designer and studied French and beginner's Italian, says the skills you gain from presenting your ideas in tutorials, navigating a year abroad, and processing large amounts of information quickly are invaluable. Clear communication and an international outlook are vital components of so many roles. Perhaps you want to go into the civil service. Well, Eleanor, who studied French and German, says that her degree gave her excellent writing skills, which is crucial in the civil service. It also gave her an appreciation for different perspectives, which has helped her deal with challenging situations and interactions. And finally, she points to the fact that lots of civil service jobs require language skills, and this may well increase in a post-Brexit context. And similarly, Ellen, who studied French and German and who is now a lawyer, also points to the usefulness of having some knowledge of European languages. She says if you're considering a career in the law or any field where you'd have to engage with foreign businesses, a working knowledge of European languages is definitely an asset. Or finally, perhaps you're considering working for an NGO or a charity. So Emily studied French, now works for the United Nations, and she says although the work is intense and challenging, it's also very rewarding, and I'm proud to work for an organisation that's devoted to maintaining international peace and security and protecting human rights worldwide. And finally, Evie, who studied French and English, now works for an educational charity, and she says when you study a language, you're confronted by a different way of constructing a sentence and a different way of constructing the world. It's vital to broadening horizons, and the year abroad, of course, has enormous benefits. And Evie says, learning languages gives you a mental flexibility which is pretty unique amongst the disciplines. This is vital when entering any kind of job. So there you have it. If you study a languages degree, the world really is your oyster.